Greetings, my name is Philip Bateman. I'm the Managing Director of Bravo Charlie, and I'm really pleased to bring you this recap of the inaugural Sydney Morning Herald Sustainability Summit, produced with Informa Connect and sponsored by McKinsey & Company, Salesforce and MasterCard. Please note, whilst I was given a media pass to the summit, these thoughts are my own. This recap and any quotations attributed to names are my best attempt based on my notes, and you'll find these as part of the LinkedIn article that goes with this video. This summit was an excellent experience, and I believe you'll be able to get the full day's recording and more information over at the website. Lisa Davies, editor of the Sydney Morning Herald, opened the day, also emceeing the majority of the conference, handing to various colleagues through the panel sessions. Lisa let us know that during the bushfire crisis, the paper received over 100,000 people contacting them about climate change and what businesses and governments were going to do about it. This spurred particularly John McDouling at the Herald to kick off this summit, and the question became evident: how do we build a sustainable future? And that this was the most pressing imperative of business and politics. For corporate Australia, prioritising sustainability is a crucial part of future success. As an aside, the quality of the speakers at the summit, their insights demonstrated a remarkable enthusiasm and positive step towards this future. The Minister for Energy and Environment of New South Wales, the Honourable Matt Kean, opened the morning as part of Catalysing the Action section. He noted safety and survival were fundamentals required by Australians and their leaders, and he focused in on how to rebound the economy from the deep recession we're finding ourselves in. He stated that a half-hearted approach to restarting the economy will not work. We're creating a transgenerational debt, and that what we decide to spend our national wealth on over the next 12 months will determine the type of environment we endow and the kind of jobs we have in the future. He said that looking through the rearview mirror is an ineffective way to deliver policy, and that fear, scaremongering, and division have previously driven our nation. If we want to repay future generations with interest, we should borrow to start building them a low-carbon world today. Mr. Kean pointed towards the Chief Scientist's report on the opportunity for New South Wales in a low-carbon economy, looking to the pillars of green chemicals, hydrogen and agriculture, and therein the opportunities for carbon sequestration and coordinated renewable energy zones. To the question, what does a successful sustainable recovery look like, the Minister spoke of the Memorandum of Understanding signed with the federal government for $3 billion in energy transition. Throughout the day, there was a Q&A option in the conference, and I often found the questions asked from attendees drove straight to the heart of most of the discussions. In this instance, it was suggested that New South Wales had to agree to 70 petajoules of gas at Narrabri to get that funding. In response to the Minister's plan, I asked, and thanks to Lisa for reading this out to the Minister, is this posed as an adjunct or an alternative to a gas-led recovery? My main takeaway from his response was the statement that if you want cheaper electricity for families, renewables are the way forward. As we go forwards, gas will be a white elephant based on the economics. This took us to the fireside chat, an Apple roadmap to carbon neutrality, featuring Lisa Jackson, Vice President of Environment Policy and Social Initiatives at Apple. Lisa laid out one of the most inspiring things I've heard, which you could argue is reasonable as the second most profitable company on earth behind Saudi Aramco, though nonetheless, Apple has gigawatts of new clean energy coming online. They're currently carbon neutral for their corporate emissions, and they have committed to bring their entire carbon footprint across the business, manufacturing and whole of the product life cycle to carbon neutral by 2030, which is effectively 8 years away. To quote Ms. Jackson, these next 10 years are absolutely crucial to be able to say to our children and grandchildren we did everything we could to stop catastrophic climate change that will cause incredible harm and sadness. The Apple plan is intending to reduce emissions by 75% by 2030 and develop innovative carbon removal solutions for the remaining 25%. You can read about it at apple.com/environment. Lisa spoke to businesses being compelled to move due to their customers' and employees' expectation, and that government needs to partner with business so that customers are not getting passed on the costs of old energy systems, which I thought was a fascinating consideration. Other notes I have are about the Apple Impact Accelerator, which focuses on supporting people of colour, their associated businesses and communities, and seeing them as a stakeholder group to be nurtured. In answer to, could Australia be left behind if our government doesn't get on board, the answer was quite simply, it's not smart in the future, it's smart now. This leads me to the next session, with Jonathan Woetzel, Senior Partner at McKinsey, Director of the McKinsey Global Institute and Co-Chair of the Urban China Initiative, who blended some pretty dire predictions with some great one-liners, such as, "You can tell the pioneers, they're the ones with the arrows in their back," which could fit nicely with Apple at times. Jonathan took us through the physical hazards and socioeconomic impacts of climate change from a report titled Climate Risk and Response. And to be frank, as I've listened to science-based analysis summaries for a decade or more, this is the kind of thing that makes me want to leave the city far behind and move to a self-sustaining food commune on a hill in New Zealand. If you're a regular, you'll know what's coming, though let's rip through it. Firstly, scenarios. From managing coastal flooding to collapsing mortgage markets in places such as Florida if home was to become uninhabitable. India becoming too hot to work, the disruption of rain cycles through Africa, and that the world's 5 bread baskets are concentrated in areas that are about to undergo significant temperature shifts. This was overlaid by a look at system thresholds, firstly where the body suffers lethal heat stroke, maize crop reproduction collapses when temperature conditions are not maintained, and physical assets such as bridges and other infrastructure disintegrating when exposed to flooding of more than 3 meters. There was a lot more, though in short, looking to both 2030 and 2050, there are massive changes afoot, and the next decade is decisive. Also, that as insurance is repriced annually, as an industry they're struggling to keep up with a volatile future, which doesn't bode well for those of us that rely on insurance, which I suggest is most of the planet.